Blog Talk Radio.
All right, guys. Sorry I had to cut the song short. Once again, the studio is acting up and everything is all clunky sounding. But welcome to Wednesday night, Musical Osmosis. I am your host, Nick the Saucy One Cat Source, humble servant of rock and roll. And as always, I am broadcasting to you live from the land of meth and honey, Caryville, Tennessee. And I also want to introduce my beautiful, my amazing, my mountain fabulous producer, the juggernaut to my justice, the strength to my steel, the hope in my hell, Danielle Prizer. What's shaking, baby?
Same old same, baby.
Okay, well,
all right. To rock out. I needed to hear something really, loud and raw, and so I'm feeling a lot better now.
Nice. I'm sure that monster helped you, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, well, it's been a couple weeks since we've been on the air, so I am bouncing off the fucking walls here. Real quick, I guess we'll get all the business out of the way. We have taken a break from the political show until the first of the year, and same with your show, sweetheart, right? Friday Night Trivia?
Yes, Friday Night Drunken Trivia is also taking holiday leave so that I can get all the shopping and cooking and such done.
And not just that, I don't want to be way down with doing a political show during the holidays. That stuff just, sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming for me. But we are still going to keep trucking along with the music show. And I'm excited because tonight we have a guest who is, this band to me has almost a pathological dedication to what they do. They are super dedicated. And the thing about the band coming up, which is going to be Lips from Anvil, is one of the things I really like about this band is you always know, and this is a good thing, you always know it's Anvil. And
yeah.
They have, to me, the embodiment of metal. Like if a fucking alien landed on this planet, like I had an ET experience, I had to kind of show them around and teach them about like Earth culture, and I had to describe metal in one word, it would be Anvil.
Yeah,
right?
All.
What do you chime
Absolutely.
in here?
Yeah,
that's
it's one of those things where they have their own flavor, their own style, and they're always true to it no matter what. There's no selling out here, and I really like that.
Yeah, and I like a band that I can always count on is going to have that sound. One of my favorite bands is Pennywise, and it's the same reason. I mean, I like that I could put an Anvil album in, and I can never have heard it before, and I'll know who it is as soon as I pop it in. And everybody knows who listens to the show, who follows the show. I only have bands on who have had an impact on me. And I'm going to give you an example, and I'm not name dropping because I've been doing this show for like 6 months, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the air. But my best friend, Jason Netherton, we've been friends since 3rd grade, and he is just a brilliant guy. I could talk to him all day long. He started a band, a couple local bands, but he went on to form Dying Fetus, and now he's in Misery Index, although it's kind of part-time because he's in Canada right now working on his doctorate. So soon he's going to be Dr. Death Metal. But people always say, well, why don't you get Jason to come on the show? And as much as I love Jason, as much as I think he is brilliant, I'm not too much into the band. So I would feel kind of like a fraud if I had someone on here I wasn't totally into. And a lot of the people, most of the bands we've had on here, it's been people I've been into. The music has had an impact on me. And why I do like Anvil, and another reason I bring up Jason is because the first time I ever heard of Anvil, I always like to set the Wayback Machine and tell people about the first time I've heard of the band. The first time I heard of Anvil, I actually grew up in PG County, right outside of D.C. in Maryland, and so did Jason. Like I said, we've been friends since third grade. I moved away for a while to Pittsburgh, came back and moved to Waldorf, Maryland, next county over. And Waldorf, it was like fucking Footloose. They had banned it. The city had actually banned MTV because MTV was the devil, and I couldn't get MTV, which means I couldn't see Headbangers Ball. So on the weekends, I'd go stay in PG County with Jason, and we'd watch Headbangers Ball together. And the first time I had heard of Anvil was on that show with their video Mad Dog. And I was like, oh, my God, this is awesome. And I went out and bought Strength of Steel the next day, and it's all history from there. But, I mean, the thing that really had an impact on me was the Anvil movie. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way who've been turned on to Anvil since Anvil, the story of Anvil's come out, that the movie, you remember that movie Rudy with I think it was the dude from Lord of the Rings? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the movie, but it's one of those where I've purposely chosen not to watch it because it's set like where I'm from, and I'm like, no, I live there, I don't care.
Well, Rudy, for anybody who doesn't know, Rudy's like this movie about this scrawny, like underdog, short kid who wants to get on the Notre Dame football team, and the kid just never gives up. Like he is just like a pit bull, tenacious, trying to get on this team. At the end of the movie, of course, the coach puts him in for the last play. And when people ask me about the Anvil movie, I'm like, it's like watching Rudy, but with beers and badass metal guitar, instead of like like footballs and college fight songs. Like that's the kind of impact. When I sat there and watched that movie for the first time, I ordered it like the day it came out, like I always used to do off deep discount. And I was sitting there with my girlfriend at the time, and it was just, these are the things, just like we had Steve on from the Gits a couple weeks ago in his movie. These are the things, especially this time of year when I start going through seasonal depression, where these are the things that move me and inspire me and get me off my ass. And every time I watch that movie, it inspires me to go do something else. So I have to give a big thank you to Lips for that. I mean, I'm sure he gets a lot of that, though. But let's go ahead and log him in here. Lips, are you with me?
I'm with you, man. Wow.
All righty.
How's it going?
Thank you so much for coming on the show. There might be a little bit of a delay, so I'm not trying to cut you off, but sometimes it sounds silent because of the phone difference or whatever. There's like a 6-10 second delay. So how you been doing since the movie's come out? Why don't you fill us in on, where you're at now?
I'm still the same, man. I'm still the same, trying to make my first million.
Nice. Well, you are well on your way.
Well, I'm on my way. Well, I don't know.
I'm going to say, please tell me they're paying you now. Like some record company has got to be paying you guys.
You don't make money from record companies.
That's true.
Not anymore. Maybe once upon a time you did, but in today's day and age, how do you sell records?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyone under 30 doesn't even know what that term means. They're like, a what?
Okay, records, CDs, how do you sell it when you can get it for free?
That's true.
Sell me some air and water. Okay, well, the water, we've been scammed like crazy everywhere. Everybody buys bottled water, but I don't know. Maybe they'll buy bottled music. I don't know.
Well, but
that's the reality. That's the true reality of the music industry. You're creating music for the people that love music, whether it's disposable or not. I guess that's another issue. But the music ends up being nothing more than your advertisement to get fans to come to your show, to pay that ticket price, which is absolutely astronomical in this day and age, or buy your T-shirt, which is also astronomically expensive. But the reason that these things are as expensive as they are is because there's nowhere else to make money in the music industry. And that's what the music industry is turned into. So
I don't think the fans mind spending a little extra though to buy a T-shirt or get into the shows, because if you're really into a band, you want to support them. And I mean, I would pay $20 for a T-shirt at a concert. I wouldn't pay $15 for it in a store, $10 for it in a store, because I want to support the band because the band's given us so much.
Absolutely, and that's how people feel about it. And you know, it's funny because even during the Anvil, with the Anvil movie and the onset of it, we initially weren't selling T-shirts at the movie theaters. Like, we'd actually play in the movie theaters, and we were just trying to sell our CDs, and we were selling This Is 13s, and it was doing fairly well. But when we added T-shirts, the T-shirts were double the amount of the CDs. How does that work? I kind of don't get that. But I think what it was, certainly after the onset of everything, This Is 13 became very accessible on the internet for free. So the T-shirts you couldn't get for free, so they'll buy that.
Exactly.
So that's how and why I say what I'm saying. That it's what it is. It's not that I'm not talking about it in an angry or disappointed. I'm just talking about the state of things. You know, it's not that it's bad. You want to go out and work in rock and roll, then you have to go out and work. It's the only way you're going to make money. You're not going to get making money by sitting on your butt waiting for royalties from record sales. There aren't any. And
see, that's the difference, is you're able to roll with the punches, and you don't seem like you're resistant to that change. You accept it as a reality where a lot of bands don't.
I embrace it. No, I embrace it because that's what I've been doing all along and wanting to do all along is play live. That's all that, in fact, that is the most gratifying aspect of what I do. And
no more day job.
The people I meet, and no more day job. That's right. Absolutely.
Exactly. All right, I got a ton to get to. This is the burning question I have for you because I was doing a little bit of research for the show. I read this on the internet. I don't know if it was true, but when I read it, it floored me. I read online, and like I said, I don't know if this is true, but you were offered by Lemmy. He wanted you to play guitar for Motorhead, and you said no. So my question is it true? And how do you say no to Lemmy? I don't even know Lemmy. If he called me at 3 in the morning and asked me to fly out and mow his lawn, I would be like, yes, sir.
And that's why my older brother still loves me. I mean, we are our own thing, and there's on a number of different levels. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because number one, I'm the main guy of Anvil.
Right.
And that would have been destroying my own creation, which is sort of anti-artistic. If you understand what I mean, it would be abandoning my dearest friend, which is Rob. I didn't want to do that.
Definitely.
The other aspect, I was right in the middle of writing and recording Forge and Fire. Had my own future and my own destiny to make. And it was at a point that it was a very crucial point. It was either, do I continue with Anvil and do Forge and Fire, or do I join Motorhead and maybe fade into obscurity or get fired, or maybe that would have been good. Who knows? I don't know. I didn't do it. I didn't do it because it didn't feel like it was the right thing. I'm the lead vocalist of my own band, and I like to write my own songs. And I certainly wouldn't want to infringe upon Lemmy trying to take anything from him, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, totally. And it's one of the reasons people have such love and respect for you is because, to me, jumping on the Motorhead scene would be kind of an artistic shortcut, but you're playing the long game, and you're like, look, I've got my scene, I love this scene, and I'm not going to sell it out so I can jump on board over here. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons I think you have such an impact on people.
Well, it's self-determination and self-belief. It's not about I'm going to jump on somebody else's wagon and they're going to take me there. No, it's about for me. It's about my thing. It's me. It might be a selfish endeavor, but it's self-fulfillment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It was in my heart to make Anvil. It was for Rob and I. Rob and I started playing together since 1973. Okay, it goes a long time before Anvil actually existed, or the band, the recording band. But Rob and I have been playing together since 1973. So we're really a 70s band.
Mm-hmm.
By all, and it's actually interesting. I'm a few years younger than the Judas Priest guys, maybe 3 or 4 years younger. Maybe in some cases, maybe 6 years younger.
Right.
I'm 10 years younger than Lemmy. You
Wow.
know, but it's sort of like an older brother to me, and he's always sort of treated me like that.
Nice. Cool.
No, like it didn't have any effect on our friendship, and in fact, it's just mutual respect because he knows how much I love what he does. And I think that the feeling is mutual because I think to a great degree we come from a lot of the same place, like musically. Like when Lemmy and I get talking about the Beatles or Jimi Hendrix or like the 60s, it's of one mind. You know, that's the stuff that we live for, you know. So
yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of commonality and. I mean, my real life older brother taught me about all the things that Lemmy was actually experiencing as at the same age as my older brother, but I kind of tagged along, if you understand what I mean. I would let's put it this way. When Hendrix came out, that was 67. I was 11 years old. I mean, it doesn't seem proper that an 11-year-old would be into Jimi Hendrix, but I was, because I had an older brother who was, 17, 18, like Lemmy, right? But the difference was that when I met Lemmy, I found out that Lemmy was actually Jimi Hendrix roadie.
Yeah, I've heard that before, actually.
Oh, it was incredible. The stories that he told me are just like, oh my God, that's
I would
out of control. Yeah, it's
so let me
it's
ask
amazing,
you, I'm
man.
watching them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Pardon me?
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Like I said, there's a little bit of a delay. Go ahead. Okay. Well, I'll move on to the next thing then. Like I said, there's somewhat of a delay on here. I was watching.
Okay, I didn't hear what you said. That's what happened.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
So when I'm watching a movie and I'm watching all the trials you guys are going through, the struggles, the ups and downs, were there any points you completely lost faith and you were just like really ready to walk away? Or was it just usual band frustration, that's it, I quit? Or was there a time when you really said, that's it, we're done?
It was, I think, the lowest moment I've ever experienced was there was a period of time that I let a roadie live at my apartment with me. And he went in, and I'd gone out, I was at rehearsal, and I came home, and he'd rummaged through everything and stolen a whole bunch of my money.
Oh.
And at that point, it was such a crucial point. I felt as though I'd had enough, because it was like I was.
And is this during like the Strength of Steel time, or is this earlier in the career, or?
Yeah, it was in around. It would have been in around actually after Pound for Pound.
Gotcha.
It's in around that period of time, because it's one of the roadies that was working as our sound man during the Pound for Pound tour. I let him stay at my house, and that's what he did. And it was at the end of that. And there was a moment or two I'm just going, you know what, I am so fed up. I've give everything away to everybody. I let somebody live at my house, and they steal my money. Like, I was, like, really, like, on the edge. It's just, I mean, I don't know. It didn't last. It was, you know.
Did Rob bring you back from that, or did you have to dig yourself out of that?
Well, what happened was, it was the way that things looked. It became suspicious that everybody that I knew could have done it, because my apartment was left in a way that any of my friends could have gotten in, because everybody, like, there was just 3 or 4 of them, you know, and Rob being one of them, had the key to my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I was feeling so distraught and so lost is because I didn't know who could have done it. Who should I mistrust?
Gotcha. So it really shook you then.
You know, that's why I said maybe I should just walk away from everybody, and then just I can't go wrong that way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I can't trust one of them, then maybe I shouldn't trust any of them. That's how I felt.
Did you ever get any thought about relocating during any of the early years, maybe to the States, and you would have had kind of an easier journey to where you wanted to get to?
Well, you know, there's so many complications and things that I could get into great detail, and what happened at certain moments, and what those things, you know, everything is connected in a sort of a stream, and whatever you do affects everything that goes after it.
Right.
So, you know, you get involved with a management company, and now you're out on the road, and you make decisions that you're going to make certain demands on the management. You want this particular item looked after, and if it isn't, you're not going to go do the gig. And he looks after the item, let's say, and then at the end of it, the management goes, you know what, these guys aren't worth it. And it's all because of attitude and the things that were going on at a particular moment. You know, decision making at a certain moment. Everything has an effect everywhere down the line. I don't, you know what? It's at a certain point you have to go. You know what? You got to do the best that you can and try to keep the most positive attitude that you can through the worst of times. And not and really try very hard, and I say this because it's probably, if I have a failing, it's by letting emotion drive my decisions.
And yeah, I know what that's like.
That is a very, very damaging element. And those kind of things have repercussions. And you can regret all you want, it will change nothing. So what's the point? So, you know, like, hindsight is always 20/20, and you can always say shoulda, woulda, coulda, but you didn't. So what is there to really say? The way that things went, we're all for where it had to go in order for to be where it is today. And that's the way you have to look at it.
Definitely. And I think it makes the success more sweet now because you've worked so hard and so long and so diligently. I mean, maybe if
and
you
it also cements the fact, and this is a very important aspect. My decision to become a musician was made when I was 10 years old, and I said, I want to do this for a lifetime. I knew that by the time I was okay, and I heard Hendrix, and I knew that this music was underground. This music was not for everybody, and it wasn't to me. You weren't doing it because you're thinking, I'm going to make millions of dollars. You were doing it because I want to do what I'm hearing on that piece of music. I feel that soul. I want to recreate. I want to be artistic with what I do. You make that decision, and then I went for it on a lifetime basis. And that meant to me, because I knew what that meant, in the sense that in order to be hard rock or metal, it is underground. That means that you can't write bubblegum music. You know, like there were, and I almost call it messages in music, and even some of Jimi Hendrix's lyrics. There ain't no surf music anymore. You know, there were.
Right.
I'm not sure if you know what that's from, but and there were things that were known about some of his concerts. He'd make fun of pop music in its day and do a couple chords and get the whole audience laughing at the piece of music and scoffing, basically making fun of pop music. It was an attitude about being. Hard rock in general was an attitude about going against the grain. At least it was to me from the time I was a kid. And I've never let go of those elements, okay? And I knew that I'm not going to be, I didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. So in order to not be a one-hit wonder, you have to do sort of what's in your heart and not ever sell out and make that your long-term plan. I mean, if there was a long-term plan from my perspective as a kid, I want to record 20 albums and then I'll go commercial.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Well, I think people
at the end of my career, if ever, but I want to be able to be doing this for a lifetime. And if you make a one-hit wonder, that means you're going to come and go.
Mm-hmm.
So we've definitely seen a lot of that.
Now, understand this, that with this philosophy, there comes almost a psychological aspect to the way that I've carried on through the years, that I think that to a great degree I've created my own environment and my own fate. That when I was given the chance, I made the wrong decisions, maybe not on a conscious level, but maybe on a subconscious level. That maybe when I wrote I'm a mad dog and I wrote the lyrics looking for a bitch in heat, begging for a doggy treat, I knew, just like you knew, that's never going to be on the radio. And maybe
right, and that wasn't your aim, so that frees you up to do so much more.
Yeah, but maybe that's why you respect us for never selling out.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand that there's a whole philosophy, and that I've actually not only just followed through with it for a year or two on my first bunch of records, but for 15 albums and continuing. Okay?
Yeah.
I still work against the grain.
Well, I think a lot of people forget, too, in the 80s, there was, and I don't know if this reached Canada like it reached here, but there was a hysteria that anything harder than Bon Jovi was devil worship music, and your kids were going to, like, slay their family if they listened to Whitesnake. I mean, were those crazy times? Did that impact you up in Canada, that the whole metal is evil? Did that touch you up there? Did that affect your career at all?
I don't think it really had any effect on my career. In fact, if it had any kind of effect, it probably was a positive effect. You know, the louder that these idiots protest about it, the more people were attracted to it. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think any of the negative. The way that metal music is just a complete reflection, and the boundaries that when you say metal music is so far and beyond. It's absolutely ludicrous that we all sit here and try to pigeonhole everything. It's absolutely insane. When the reality is, the invention of the electric guitar is the where it all changed, and from that point on, it's almost all the same. And the cross use of electric guitar is in every kind of music in the modern world. So at the end of the day, there's no such thing as this is metal, or this kind of metal, that kind of metal, this, that, that, that. There's only two kinds of music. Music I like and music I don't like. And that's the way people should begin to adopt that philosophy, and that way you're allowing you're opening your mind and your soul to a lot more than you've ever imagined. And you'd probably be a lot more better off. But who am I to preach? Everybody's entitled to do whatever the hell they want to do, and that's fine. But I'm just saying that, that's the way I look at it.
Right, and I mean, that's human nature, I think, to label things. I remember when I first got into metal, and I moved to Waldorf, and people were like, what kind of music are you into? And I said metal, and they're like, are you into power metal, thrash metal, death metal? Like, now I have to pick these subgenres to fit in? Like, it's not even good enough that we enjoy the same thing. Now I have to get that to that granular level of what type of metal? I mean...
Okay, for the humanity to get to the next level, we have to dismantle difference. That's what we have to do. And when I say that, man, that's very deep what I mean by that. And that's fine. And everything we do is we compare it. Is it better or worse? Is it different than me? And we look for the difference. We never look for the commonality. We're always looking for the difference. And that's our failing. That's our biggest failing. On every level, man. When you're going, I'm going to listen to this piece of music, and if it's different than what I like, I won't like it. And we're looking for the difference.
But I think that's less true today, though, than it was when I was a kid, because I don't see people being shoved into those little boxes as much. I mean, when I was a teenager, your whole social life depended, your identity depended on what type of music you listened to. And, I mean, we've got
now the labels are just different. That's all.
Yeah, the labels are all different. They're still labeled, nonetheless. But the kids, everybody... And looking for your difference is trying to find your place and where you feel comfortable. In other words, where you feel you've got things in common with others.
Right.
Which is, if we started to dismantle the difference and only looked to find our commonalities, then we'd start realizing how much we all are alike. And how much how is it that some bands get notoriety? Because there's something about them that appeals to millions.
Yeah.
And that we all have it in common. Why?
That's a good question.
These are the things that we have to be able to grasp as a human race and be able to run with it to improve. That's like, what is it that we, in a great degree, music is that phenomenon. One of the only phenomenons in humanity where people actually go, okay, the whole world likes U2 no matter where they're from, or the whole world likes Metallica no matter where you're from, or the whole world likes Iron Maiden no matter from where you're from. What gives that commonality?
Right.
I mean, those are the sociological questions that I'm always in quandary of them. What does this mean? How do we figure this out? How do we make the world a better place? How do we start realizing that I just came from South America, and they really feel as though they're the only metal people in the world. Okay?
Right.
And everywhere that I go, people want to feel as though that their individuality is theirs and theirs alone. That as if, okay, wherever you guys are living, that's the biggest metal area. But the real truth is, metal is a worldwide phenomenon. It's everywhere. It permeates every country on the face of this planet. There are metal people that are just as passionate in every country, town, and city, everywhere in this world. And that's what I've come to discover. And there is no real, there's really no border on that. There's no real difference in that. Whether it's a fan from South America or whether it's a fan from Australia or whether it's a fan from India. I mean, they're all as passionate and believe themselves to be a very small, insignificant community when they're actually part of a massive community on a worldwide basis. But they just don't see further than their own little bedrooms and their own turntables or their own CD player or MP3 player. They think they're the only one listening to that piece of music, when in actual fact there's people listening to that piece of music in hundreds of towns and countries all over the world all at the same time. You just don't even know it.
But see, the fact that you have thought this out, the fact that you have seen this, that's what makes you an artist and not an accountant.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because you see that. But what do you do with the other half of the planet that is accountants? How do you get them there? I mean, I don't want to get too cultural or political. I'm just fascinated by what you were saying. But honestly, how do you get the accountants on board with the artists?
Well, what's really interesting is they probably really enjoy music. You know?
Yeah, probably for different reasons.
Yeah, but maybe for different reasons. Maybe they're, you know, I mean, I think that music is one of those things that's been used since the dawn of time, and we're the only creatures really on the earth that actually can understand what music is. And it's part of humanity and since the dawn of time. And it's a mirror image. It's a mirror image. Is what
you feel like taking a call, Lips? Because we got a call coming in.
Sure.
All righty. We got my pal Jimmy calling in. Jimmy Swader?
What's up, brother, man?
What is happening, man? It's been a while. How you been?
I'm outside cooking steaks on the grill, man.
Right on. You got a question for Lips?
I'm not really too familiar with the music. I mean, I've heard of Anvil and I've seen the movie, but, you know, I'm like more into death metal and all that stuff. So, I mean, I just give y'all props, man, for being, you know, the band that you are and being around as long as you've been around, you know?
Right on, man.
How did the movie affect you? Like, what kind of impact did it have when did it light a fire under your ass like it did to me or does to me every time I watch it?
I mean, I just thought it was pretty cool how metal movies put it out, you know. I think any metal movie is awesome, you know, that they're able to express their feelings and stuff like that in their music. And, you know, music is what helps me, you know, from day to day. If it wasn't for music, man, I don't know what I would do.
True. Lips, do you get a lot of people now that are fans of the movies but not necessarily fans of Anvil? Are you seeing that phenomena? Or is it just all Anvil fans pretty much across the board?
No, it's actually quite the other way around. The movie audience is way bigger than the metal community itself in general. And they're not going to buy Anvil records. They're not even going to come see us. But they'll root for me, and they know who I am. But are but they're at the same time they're not going to buy death metal records either. So,
right.
And that and the cross genre stuff, you know, that's like I was talking about before. All the music is connected because they're all using the same instrumentation. You know, they're all using electric guitars with drums, and they're singing on whatever. And the singing is actually what gives it more of its identity, even more so than even what the guitars or the drums are doing. But it's the people themselves. You pick and choose what suits your soul, and you go after it. You listen for it, and that's what it is. So it's just music.
Well, I know
you
how
like it or
I'm
you don't.
hardwired. Is because I was in a band for a while, and we did our one piddly little album. And I know if I was in your shoes, like I'm the kind of person who's obsessive, where I would be like, I want all these people to be Anvil fans. It's cool they like the movies, but I got to get albums into their hands. Did you feel like that, or were you just satisfied that they got something out of the movie and was able to walk away with something from the movie, or were you like, I want them to be Anvil fans?
You know, the musician part of me, of course, there's a bit of a heartache because you got to realize you can't, especially musically. And what did I start it out to be? It's metal. It's not pop music. What am I can't delude yourself into believing I'm going to become big as Def Leppard. It's not going to happen, man. Not doing
right.
what I'm doing. Come on, there's a state of reality that comes with what I'm doing. So, and I can't be disappointed on any level, and I'm not. And it's not like I'm looking for that. I never have been, so it's still not. So it's still not in my sight. So I don't have the expectation. So therefore, I would never have the disappointment. It's just it's an interesting thing. So I have a fan base that keeps my musical career intact and plausible and meaningful existence. And how much more can you ask? That's success, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've been all over the world. You're definitely successful. You've had experiences I'm never going to have. And I see that, and I envy that, and I'm happy for you guys that you have that. So, I mean, you definitely, at the end of the day, can hold your head up and say, I've had an impact on this planet.
Here's an interesting bit of a story. And it's much in the same way that brought the fate for Sasha to make that movie. It continues and always has. Just recently, I made friends with this guy in Japan, and it became very apparent that he's extremely enthusiastic, like a major fan since he was a very young kid. And he's just all of a sudden made himself known to me, and I started communicating with him over the internet for a couple months, and then he went on this campaign to try to get us to be playing at Loud Park this year, which it just didn't happen for whatever reason. I mean, so we'll go next year, but it didn't happen this year. So he got really upset, and he decided he's going to come from Tokyo to Toronto just to see our shows here in Toronto. Like, that's how much it meant to him. So he bought himself a ticket to come to Toronto. I wouldn't let him stay in a hotel. He stayed at my house, man.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I mean, that's what I did. So he stayed at my house. We had 4 shows in a row. He had to leave after the 3rd show, and the night that I brought him back after the 3rd show, we were standing in my kitchen. It must have been about 2:30 in the morning, and the poor guy broke down into tears. And I can't tell you about how incredible it felt to me, having been responsible to give somebody that much joy. I've never been paid like that. You know what I'm saying? That's more than
it's its own currency.
That's more than a king's ransom, dude. It doesn't get a bigger compliment as far as a level of humanity is concerned. I don't know how to put it into words, but those kind of things are what I term as the most valuable, and that's why I'm talking about this. It's not that I just did a bunch of shows in South America, and I'm going to tell you how much money I made or didn't make. You know what I'm saying? It's not about that. It's not about that. You know, it's like sometimes the small things like that are so meaningful. It's incredible. You know, or look at the passion all over the world of people like that for music. I mean, that's pretty incredible, man.
So when you sit down and think to yourself about the impact that you personally, just your lyrics, your songs, have had on people all over the world, I mean, I've had an impact on like 12 people with my music. You've had an impact on probably tens of thousands. How do you process that? Are you overwhelmed by that when you sit down and think like there's some kid in Brazil rocking out right this second to an Anvil album? Or how do you process having that kind of impact on this planet?
Well, you don't. The real truth is you don't. You just carry on as if it's another day. You don't think about things like that. You can't. That's megalomania. How do you get? I don't know how you get there. I don't know the directions, and I don't want to. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you get that self-indulged? You know what I mean? Like, I think maybe
that's why you are who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that those kind of things are the kind of things that get to a lot of very famous people, and I can understand it. Sometimes there are moments that I feel a little bit, overwhelmed. Yes, overwhelmed in the sense that, are these people crazy? Can't they see that I'm just a regular person? What are they going? Why are these people hysterical? Like, what's going on here? Isn't this a little bit too much?
Yeah, but let me interject. A regular person who would have gave up like a very long, 20 years down the road, they wouldn't have had, like I said in the intro, this pathological dedication to just soldier on and have that so much faith in yourself. That kind of separates you from a regular person right there, because so many people quit as soon as something gets a little bit challenging for them. So I think that's why people gravitate towards people like that, because they're willing to sacrifice sweat and blood to get where they want to be. So, you know, I'm not trying to put you up on a pedestal, don't get me wrong. I'm just always fascinated when I meet people at your level, especially when they're so humble, because it's like you kind of are a little bit beyond the average person just by virtue of who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I sort of. It's hard to think of what effect your life has on other people. You too. I think generally speaking, most of us are work from inside out rather than outside to in. You know what I mean? Like, that's more normal to just carry on your life from the inside to out, and how you project yourself, and worried about how you're perceived, rather than living up to how you're perceived.
Right. I mean, I'm not trying to change your whole outlook. I don't want you to get off the phone and be like, oh, that Nick guy's right, I'm awesome, and totally change.
No, man. It ain't going to happen, man. My shit still stinks. Sorry.
Nice.
Hey, Nick.
Like, yeah, Jimmy.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'm actually 40 years old now, and I wasn't able to do the metal thing like I wanted to do. I'm a lead guitar player. I've been playing guitar since I was 10 years old. I raised my kids, man. My kids are of age now. I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to tour. I just want to ask, how is it being overseas is my dream. I want to be able to play in front of 500,000 people. I just want to ask, how does it feel to play in front of that many people, sir?
Believe it or not, it really doesn't. It's actually annoying. because you don't get the personal attachment that you would in a small club.
Right.
It seems that the gratification is much further away.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's certainly, and the other aspect is the overwhelming feeling that you have to be so perfect and you're under the gun. It kind of draws from your performance in a certain sense, because you're playing under stress. You're not completely comfortable because of the numbers. If you understand what I mean. It's not a matter of stage fright. It's a matter of keep making it perfect and being under the stress of wanting perfection. Not that you're in fear of making a mistake. It's wanting perfection. That the stress takes away from the fun. You know if you understand what I mean.
Yes, sir. But
it's a lot more fun playing in front of 15,000 people than it is playing in front of 80,000.
Yeah.
And as the numbers get bigger, it gets sort of less fun because you're more concerned about the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love doing it all. There isn't any aspect, and even when I'm under the gun like that, I tend to relax. It's usually the first few moments, and then it's just like all the other gigs. Because the truth is, the real truth is, every performance, you're striving for that perfection. Whether it's 10 people or whether it's 100 people. And you also enjoy yourself the same way. If you truly are, if you truly have that in your blood to be a performer, you just like to perform, whether it's for 2 people or 10 people or 20 million people. You don't care. It's just as long as you get to do your thing. But the truth be told, you're in the same band, you're playing the same songs, you're doing them in the same order, you're taking up the same space on stage, your monitors are where they always are, your amplifier and your guitar sound is the same as it always is. So really, is anything any different? It's just how many people are sitting in front of you. But after you get started and you get going, it doesn't make any difference. It's just another performance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it turns into. Certainly at this point, for Angus Young, every night is that. So when you become accustomed to it, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you become, it's like putting on an old pair of shoes. You're accustomed to it. And I think that can be said. I think I suffered from more as a young performer in that regard. In my first, when I did, because now I've got such a huge retrospective of the whole situation, I can go and think about, 30 years ago when I first started out and I was opening for Iron Maiden, I remember almost shitting my pants. I was so scared. You know what I mean?
Right. I can imagine.
I can think about that, but then I go, well, I just played Black in front of 80,000 people, and I was totally comfortable with that. I remember after doing these huge performances that I've done in the most recent times, I'm going, God, what I would have done to have had the confidence and the calmness that I have today when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
And it's about experience, I mean, that's the best way you can describe it. And it just like everything else in life, it becomes normal. Like, imagine being a doctor or a surgeon, and you're learning your first surgery, and you've got the head surgeon standing beside you, and the guy's saying, okay, open the patient. And you've never done it before. You're going to be scared.
Exactly.
I mean, you've seen it done 1,000 times, and you've even practiced on all kinds of whatever, and but then here's the real living patient, and you're standing there going, oh my God. It's the same thing, but once you get involved and you start doing these things and get used to it, that's what you do, it's just like any other vocation or any other human ability. It's just that's the way it is. Practice makes
so
sense.
with 30 years in, how do you keep it fresh? If it is the same set and the same amps, how do you keep it new where it's just like it was for 20 years ago? Or is that impossible?
Well, no, actually, where I derive the most newness is I've come to be able to identify the personality of a situation, like of a club or of a festival, and the mood of the people. And the mood of the people can really dictate the way you perform. And
definitely that energy.
And you learn to work within those parameters and how to make it work for you. And those are the things that actually make every night is different. Even in the same city, every night is different. And it doesn't mean that it's better or worse. It's just different. And it has its own personality and its own way. And that depends on the moment. Not every night is the same because I'm not the same. My mood might be different. Maybe the audience's mood. Maybe I might have a heckler. Maybe I might have somebody who says something that sparks something that makes me say something that I never said before. And the spontaneousness of it all is, I think, is probably has been the biggest key for my longevity, and to be able to actually embrace that and run with it. And some people call it jamming. You know, you can do it. You mentally jam. You can talk to an audience and jam with the audience with with what you're verbalizing, right?
That's
so
awesome.
That's what makes it all different. Yes, the songs are all the same, but the people aren't. Not in the room. Different people every night.
Well,
is there any noticeable difference between fans today than, say, 30 years ago? What's the biggest contrast between fans 20-something-year-olds today and 20-something-year-olds 30 years ago when you were playing?
Well, to a great degree, I think an audience is an audience. There was a certain kind of audience that came with the real thrashy death metal stuff that, you know, with the moshing and everything, that was different from, let's say, power metal, where everybody would just stand there and watch.
Right.
Be moshing or body surfing. There was I think those are somewhat trendy aspects of the metal genre. And it's hard to even say that, isn't it? To say that metal has trend to it, but I think it's part of what it all is. It's actually pretty comical. It's like
was
when
it
you
a lot
actually
more
start.
aggressive 30 years ago? Was it a lot more likely to be fights at an Anvil show 30 years ago?
No, I don't really see it as like if I really start thinking about it, I don't really see it any different at all. For Anvil, I don't really think it's ever been any different. Always sort of the same. We're a band that people tend to watch rather than actually. Like, I've been to shows where people aren't even watching the band. There's just a big circle of people beating on each other and moshing. You know what I mean? I don't think that it makes any difference what band is on stage. But generally, when people watch an Anvil show, they're almost participating in the show in the sense that, like, I'll have them sing in the middle section of Forge and Fire, what used to be the rhythm guitars. I have everybody going,
right,
and then I just play the guitar solo on top of it, which is magical and musical, and the audience is participating in. And it makes it spontaneous. It doesn't work every night. Sometimes they start and then they lose it and they don't continue for them to identify the beauty in what they're actually creating. They're not realizing that they're creating something. It's really interesting. I do a lot of different things. It's very important to make an audience participate in your performance because then they're part of it.
Right, you want them to be invested.
Yeah, that's right, and that's most bands play at their audience. They don't play with their audience.
Right.
You should. The best bands play with their audience. That's what I think.
Is there a huge energy difference playing now with 3 instead of 4, like say 10 years ago? And why did that? How was that decision made to drop having an extra guitar in there?
Oh, well, what became initially when we first started, when Rob and I first started back in '73, we were a 3-piece band. It was as simple as that. I mean, it wasn't until actually Kiss and Nugent a little later on that we started going, you know what, that's kind of attractive. Let's get a second guitar.
Nice.
And that's why we had Dave Allison. We were trying to make some kind of emulation of what we were listening to at the time. And
did you feel like the music would be more powerful with that 4th person in it? Like it would just amplify the energy? Or was it more of a technical, we could do more technical if I'm freed up?
Well, that's it. It was like, well, if I'm going to become the lead vocalist, then maybe I better get a rhythm guitar so that I don't have to necessarily have to be playing when I'm singing.
Right.
But as I went along, I never followed the philosophy. I've always been playing as I'm singing. I never really depended on it. So it became redundant. All the guy's doing is everything that I normally do, that I'm doing anyways. And it's just making it louder, and it makes it louder, harder to hear each other on stage, because what was happening is the guitars become louder than the bass and the drums and the vocals. You got twice as much guitar.
Interesting. So you actually feel freed up not having that rhythm guitars.
Well, what happens is that the sound pie, which I call it the sound pie, all of a sudden you've got bigger pieces, right? Because you're not chopping it into 4, you're chopping it into 3. Now
nice.
You go,
yeah.
So now wait a minute. Now that means something significant at the end of the day, because what happens is when you take out that rhythm guitar, all of a sudden the bass guitar becomes a really important facet in your sound.
Right.
And so does the drums. But when the drums, with a drummer like Rob Reiner being obliterated by having too much guitar is actually detrimental. Sorry, it's just the way I look at it. It's detrimental. The Cream didn't have 2 guitars. They could have. Jeff Beck or Jimmy Page could have played guitar along with Eric and the Cream and made a super band, but they didn't.
Right.
And if they had, then maybe we wouldn't appreciate Ginger Baker for all the wonderful work that he did as a drummer, or Jack Bruce as the prime example of what great bass playing and drumming is. Everybody has to step up their game. When you play 3-piece, it's serious, man. There's no room for error. Everybody's part is bare naked and right out there for everybody to hear it and see it. There's no question about what you're hearing. I mean, every aspect it's totally, everything is dependent on each other. Any one of those 3 things missing, there's something huge missing.
Exactly.
Never mind if my guitar stops playing and all you got is drums and bass, you're going to notice it.
I agree, sir. Because I just went.
If the drums drop out, what happened? Right?
Yeah.
In a 3-piece band, everything must be integrally better. So it's almost, there's a certain aspect that's really was super attractive to Rob. even more so than to me, because he's going, now everybody's going to hear what the fuck I've been playing for all these years.
Exactly.
Right.
And,
Did you feel tighter with the rest of the
mad
band?
egotist that he is, he loves to hear it. You know what I mean?
Right. Did you feel tighter with the rest of the band once the rhythm guitarist left? Do you feel like that made you a more cohesive unit? Did you actually play better?
Yeah, it actually really improved my. I had to improve it. It was actually quite. It was actually really, really fascinating for me as a player. I'd gotten so used to having that other guitar there, and I didn't realize how much I was kind of leaning on it.
Wow. So it became a crutch, kind of.
Yeah, not even so much a crutch, but it would also, I could be sloppier and get away with it. No one ever know the difference.
Right. Wow.
When I started, including myself, because when you got the second guitar, you're not hearing yourself as clearly. So therefore, when you don't hear yourself as clearly, how well are you playing? As well as you can hear yourself. That's how well you're playing. So the better
I've got another call coming in.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me take this other call. We got Chris from Virginia Beach.
Hello?
Are you with me?
Hello. Yeah, this is Chris.
What's up, Chris?
Hey, what's happening?
Am I on the radio?
With Lips from Anvil. You are absolutely on the radio.
Hey, what's up, Anvil player? Is this what member of Anvil am I speaking with?
You're speaking to Lips.
Oh, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. What's up? What's going on?
Oh, not too much, man. I'm over here in Virginia Beach, and this place that doesn't have places that plays too much good music anymore, man. In fact, dude, I know I have in my thousands of record collection, I have a couple of your records.
That's cool. Hey, man, I used to come down to Virginia Beach when I was a kid. In fact, my dad wanted to buy a motel and have me learn how to run it. But I didn't want to do it. I wanted to become a guitar player.
Yeah, Virginia Beach is definitely one of my favorite places on the planet. So you got a
I'm
question
sure back in the
us?
80s it was rocking, but now it's like a communist state. Well, they call it Commonwealth. I call it the communist state.
Why is that? The music scene?
Well, just like, growing up in the 80s, dude, you know how it was, man. You could do whatever you want. Nowadays, man, it's a crime to have fun, man. You know what I mean? Just rocking down the road, having your metal, just doing what we used to do, man. It ain't like back in the day.
Flips, have you seen a huge change? I know you're in Canada, and I know a lot of people around the world probably
you're in Canada, dude?
Man, fine, yeah.
What's that like?
What's Canada like?
Yeah.
It's like any other place, really. It's really not any different than your environment. I think that I think what's changed most in the years that have gone by is the general attitude.
Yeah.
There's a very negative attitude out there. People listen to music, or a new band, and they're going, I ain't going to like this. It's going to suck. And they have that attitude. Prove me wrong. Everything sucks. Prove me wrong. That's the biggest difference from the old days. The old days when you'd hear of a band, have you heard of Praying Mantis? And you go, what's that?
Yeah.
And everybody went, I want to hear that. And now you go, have you ever heard of this band Dying Fetus or
I just saw him Saturday night, dude.
Anal Blast? You're going, oh yeah, that's going to be really good. Like you always have that, and part of it is what bands are calling themselves is even negative. I think that's what's mostly changed. And some things not for the better, a lot of the death metal that's out there. I don't know whether they're embarrassed by the name that they call themselves or what, but I'm trying to figure out why they would design their logos so you can't read them. How are you supposed to identify what the name of your band is if you can't even read the logo? That
yeah, I got it. Well, you've been around for a long time. Who are you inspired by? Like, what made you Anvil? What made you? Who are you inspired by? I mean, you're talking about in the '80s,
Black
like
Sabbath. Well, who's the
Black Sabbath, of course.
Black
See,
Sabbath.
me personally, I was more into I like the bands. Have you ever heard like Hollow's Eve?
Yeah, that's a later band in the '80s. Yeah.
Well, they're like early '80s, but they're like the brink, I believe, to me, like of the beginning of like death metal in a way, of like thrash and stuff like that. But I mean, I grew up like with metal bands, and I grew up personally. My style of music was I grew up like punk, like the Sex Pistols and the Dead Boys and Ramones and stuff like that. But as far as metal bands, I like Quiet Riot, Twisted Sister, and I like stuff like Wasp. And that was like Wasp was a scary band in the early '80s, man. That was like that was a pretty tough band. And I don't know, but like today's new music, I totally agree with you. You can't. It's all repetitious. It kind of sucks.
Well, going back to Lips's point, I think another thing is you can get any music now at a click of a button. And back in the '80s when we were kids, finding that album that nobody heard of, that was a fucking treasure hunt. And when you found it, people were excited.
And that was part of what made it all attractive.
Hey, absolutely, dude. You're absolutely right, man, because it when you bought an album, man, you actually spent more time with it. You looked at the album cover and you spent more time with that album. And nowadays it's like like Nick just said, it's a click of a button. You don't even respect it. You know what I mean? It's like a new album comes out. Oh, well, I got 300 more that I can just click on. But back in the day, in the '80s, man, when you bought an album, man, you were really into that band and that album. You had to buy it and you appreciated it.
Well,
I remember
there's a very good important point right there, and just what you said. You appreciated it, but you paid for it. So in other words, what we're talking about there is part of the deterioration of the philosophy behind what's going on with music. If we don't have to pay for it, we don't value it the same way. That's why a T-shirt is worth more than the music, than owning the CD. That's actually the very saddest part. It was the red flag that Lars put up back a number of years ago when he went after Napster.
Right.
I'll give you hey, dude, I'll tell you what, man. I'll give you a story. In 1983,
make it quick.
I was a punk and everything, but this is before Motley Crue was all glam. But Motley Crue's "Shout at the Devil" came out, and I remember I moved out of the city, and I was in this little country area down in southern Maryland, and I remember going to collect aluminum cans, and I walked all the way up to the Safeway grocery store, which you could take a bag of cans and they give you money. I collected about 2 bags, and I made $6.50. It was $7 for a cassette. This is when cassettes were, and vinyl was big too. But I bought it on cassette, and I remember getting that money. And man, that "Shout the Devil" album was a great album, for the time.
And you valued it, because look how hard you had to work to get it.
Absolutely, man. It's just.
There's an element to all that. I actually believe that.
And it's definitely
I really
missing now.
believe that.
When you can download them, there's no anticipation. I remember when I was young, and if a cartoon was coming on from my youth, like once in a while, Channel 20 would play like H.R. Puffin stuff, and me and my friends would get together.
Stuff, my favorite channel.
Yeah, just to freaking watch that. We would get together just to watch. And now you can go on YouTube and watch any show that was ever invented since the dawn of time. There's no more anticipation or excitement.
Jack Wild. That was H.R. Puffin stuff, right? With Jack Wild.
I didn't know what his name was.
I remember Jimmy, and he had the little golden flute. The little golden flute the witch always wanted. I used to watch that show. Croft Superstars or something like that, I think. Or what was it called, Nick?
Well, listen, we're getting off topic here, and I've only got a couple minutes, and I want to get to the new album. Lips, can you tell us a little bit about the new album? I know this is kind of like a full circle type of, I don't know, I mean, is this album all about vindication? Like you finally feel like you're being heard, or can you give us like a little bit of background on Hope and Hell?
Well, I think that it's, we finally identified who we are. Like, and instead of trying to be anybody else but ourselves, we really found it to be we got really comfortable with ourselves. Probably more so than we ever have. Because I think what happens as you go through your career, initially you're poking in the darkness and you're creating. You don't even know what you're creating. You don't know what your style is, and you create it simply by accident and out of innocence. And then after that, you start to educate yourself, and you start putting the kitchen sink into your music, and you get lost in this chase for integrity, and chase to outdo yourself. And then all of a sudden, one day you wake up and you're going, you know what? Whatever I did in innocence without knowing, just by being myself and just experimenting and doing whatever came natural, that was actually the road to have stayed on or been on all along, and all of a sudden you become comfortable. That's what I'm going to do. So whatever I come up with is going to be my own identity, because I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to be like anybody but myself. So being myself, it just means like whatever I feel like today, or whatever ever comes out of me musically, if when I plug my guitar and I start playing and I start making something up, that's what it is. Nothing more than that. And once you're just able to accept that, just go with it, and instead of going, well, what should I do next? Make it up. Don't worry about what to do next. If you stop thinking about it and just let it happen and unfold, it gets done properly. And it's about spontaneity. It's about having the same attitude about when you go play live. It's also when you go create music, you have to have the instant spontaneity to that. Well, okay, we need a verse. Okay, what do I feel like? Okay, there's the verse. Okay, that's the verse. Okay, well, you know, most of the time you start out with that chorus riff. Okay, you know where the chorus riff is. Well, what am I going to do for a verse? And then you get a verse, and then you go, okay, well, then Rob and I start up, and we start with the chorus riff into the song, and then we go to the verse, and then what do I feel like going next? Okay, oh, I got a sub-chorus. That next part, and you work in the sub-chorus, and then you're back to the chorus. Okay, we got the first front of the song done. Okay, now we got to write a guitar solo section. What are we going to do for that? Okay, let's start jamming. You start playing, and then you get to the section that you didn't know what you're going to do, and you just start playing whatever comes to whatever you felt like at the moment, and all of a sudden the part appears. And
so you can't just sit down and write a song on command. You have to have that spontaneity, and it just flow out of you.
Well, it's exactly that. You do it on demand. I'm demanding myself to do this right now. Come up with it. And don't pre-think it, don't overthink it. Just come up with it. What's the matter? If you really are an artist, that's what you do. You take from nothing and make something. So do it. That's your job. What's the problem?
Right.
That's what you have to look at it. It is the way it is, and that's how you get your best work. Is not focusing to the point where you lose perspective. You got to just let it naturally fall out. If it doesn't,
right, you definitely have to stay out of your own head and just let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, and what we did for all of this new album was we just followed that philosophy. Okay, what do we feel like doing today? We start into a riff, and we get within 45 minutes, the basic structure of the song is created, and from that you just hone it and get your parts down even better. Sometimes you add a little bit here, take away there, or you figure out overdubs are going to be, then you figure out what the melody's going to be, but the basic structure of the song written in 45 minutes. Your best songs you're ever going to write, that's how it's done.
Are you a three?
Did you have a question, Jim?
That's how Metal on Metal was written. That's how Fortune Fire was written. All the early albums, instantaneously. You don't spend hours laboring on something. The more you labor, the further you are from where you got to be.
Gotcha. Jimmy, did you have something to add?
Yeah. Are you a three-piece band now on your new album? I just saw Dying Fetus up at Empire, and I'm blown away with the three-piece band like Destruction, Dying Fetus. Are you a three-piece band now, or how many band members?
Well, we've been a three-piece band now for
since 10 years, right?
Well, no, since this is 13. So
and that was what, 2008, 2009?
Yeah. Well, actually, the guitarist left before we even began touring with that record. He virtually didn't record anything. He recorded 2 solos on it. That was it. But other than that, he didn't play any rhythms, didn't do anything. In fact, he didn't do any of the rhythms on or much soloing on the albums he was on previous to that. That's why we got rid of the second guitarist. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and it wasn't. It was killing the sound. It was wasting time. It wasn't being additive. Then there's no point. That's how we got there. And I got to tell you, I've never been happier.
I have much props for seeing it. Actually, watching a three-piece band, being behind the stage where I was at for Dying Fetus, man, I am blown away with just how much talent and how much, ability that you're using with that three-piece band. I mean, you're just, it's just extreme. It's hard to explain the feeling that I felt while I was watching that, man. I was just blown away.
Dude, you know what you actually, the three-piece band, it's the most important elements of a piece of music. That's all that's there. There's nothing else there. You know what I'm saying? So any one of those three pieces, if it's missing, it's gone. It's not. It's like the power of three.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Stripped down. It's bare essentials. Definitely.
It's the bare essentials, and when you've got that, and it's amazing what you can do with it. It's absolutely incredibly amazing what can be done with that, and the freedom in it. There's a level of freedom that you can't get with 4 guys.
Yeah, it blows my mind, man. It really does.
All right, last question, because we got to go. We're almost out of time. If this all ended today, Lips.
Sorry. What's that?
Sorry. If this all ended today, if Anvil was over today, do you feel like mission accomplished? Do you feel like you did what you were set on this earth to do?
I would have to say that you never feel complete. I don't think at any point, I don't think anybody in their right mind could ever feel that way. Because even in your last breath, you're going to still wish for another one. If you understand what I mean, but I think it's the human spirit to want to continue. So I don't see it as. I don't really see it that way. I'm happy with everything I've ever done. Okay, and to say that I've done it all, I haven't done it all until I breathe my last breath. So, would I be content? I think is what you're asking. Yes, I would be content.
Right.
Have I gotten everything I've ever wanted? Probably not. And you know what? I don't think any human being ever in the existence of the world has ever gotten everything they've ever wanted. And if they have, they're probably not as happy as they probably should.
Yeah, they're miserable. And they got everything they wanted.
Yeah,
all right.
I think part part of what makes life worth living is wanting.
Yep.
You know,
That's exactly true.
you got to have a goal. You got to have a dream. You got to have an end game. You got to have a tomorrow. I think the whole thing is more. That's what we all want, more.
Do you think it's too easy
another
for
day of life,
kids today that they don't have that perspective because they have so much access to so much media and information? Do you think they kind of don't have that thing?
No, they have hopelessness. Because there's so much. Because there's so much, it's so much adversity to get past. It makes it really hard, much more hopeless feeling. I think it's hard to have a positive feeling when the world makes you feel so insignificant. I think that's one of the hardest things for people to get over, you know?
True. Well, Lips, I could go on talking to you, honestly, for another 5 hours, but we got about 3 minutes of the show left. I want to thank all the callers for calling in. I want to thank you for coming on the show. This has been a great hour and a half. Is there anything you want to say on the way out to the fans?
Not in particular. Nothing. I think what I want to say most of all is how badly I want to come play for everybody. I mean, that's what I live for.
I'd love to see you play.
It's not about making money, man. It's just about playing. My payment is those moments on stage when I get to be and do what I am. I mean, it's the most useful that you can feel, right?
Yeah.
I agree, but I've been on stage, so...
That and being someone's husband and someone's dad. Those are the things that are fulfilling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everyone wants to be heard. I think that's a necessity up there with food and shelter.
Yep.
People want to be heard. Unfortunately, a lot of people only know how to express themselves negatively to be heard.
Yeah,
They're not putting enough positive into the world. But I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. I'll keep in touch with you. Next time you've got something coming on or when you come to the States, when you're coming out to this area, I'd definitely love to have you on the show again, Lips.
Okay, that would be great, man.
All righty, I want to thank...
Hopefully it will be sooner than later, that's all.
Any plans of coming to the States or coming out Midwest?
No, I don't know, man. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I'm hoping it's sooner than later. And I use the word hope. I hope
well,
in hell.
Speaking of hope, we've got Hope in Hell coming up. I want to thank everybody. This has been Wednesday night, Musical Osmosis. I believe we'll be back in 2 weeks with the Vindictives. I'm sorry, not the Vindictives, the Vandals. And here goes Hope in Hell. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.